At 4:47 a.m. in Chelan County, Washington, the orchard rows are still dark. Temperature 52 degrees. Dew point high. Forecast clear for now. By 6 a.m., 37 picking crews will move into these trees. By noon, the first refrigerated trucks will be rolling south on Highway 97. By midnight, cherries picked this morning will be in a packing house cooler, sorted, sized, boxed, and logged against an export-grade standard that allows almost no deviation. The window for all of this is 3 weeks, sometimes less. Washington State produces more than 60% of the sweet cherries consumed in the United States. The Bing, the Rainier, the Skeena. Varieties bred over decades, each with its own sugar curve, its own ideal harvest moment, its own tolerance for heat and rain. This is not a crop that waits. When a cherry reaches peak sugar, the clock starts. When rain arrives, even a brief shower, the skin of a ripe cherry absorbs moisture and splits. An entire block of trees can crack overnight, not bruised, not damaged, unsellable, unmarketable, done. So everyone works fast. Everyone watches the sky. And the entire harvest of one of America's most valuable fruit crops compresses into roughly 21 days along the eastern slope of the Cascades. The cherry country of central Washington runs north from Wenatchee through the Chelan Valley and up into the Okanagan Highlands, a corridor of benchland orchards above the Columbia River drainage, where elevation controls everything. Down low at 700 feet, cherries ripen first. Late June, the heat builds off the canyon walls and the fruit comes in fast. Higher up, at 1,200, 1,500 feet, the ripening trails behind by 10, sometimes 14 days. Orchards in the highlands near Tonasket and Oroville don't start picking until the 3rd week of July. This elevation sequence is not accidental, it is managed. Growers and labor contractors track micro-ripening blocks, the way logistics companies track shipping containers. A crew finishing a low-elevation block on Thursday will move up valley to a higher elevation block by Saturday morning. The season flows uphill. That is how 30,000 to 40,000 seasonal pickers stay employed through most of July, without any single orchard area being overwhelmed. The majority of cherry pickers in Washington work under the federal H-2A agricultural visa program. Workers arrive from Mexico and Central America under contracts that specify the orchard, the wage rate, the housing location, and the work schedule. This is not casual labor. Cherry picking is skilled piecework. Speed matters. Technique matters. A picker who grabs too hard bruises the fruit. One who pulls without the stem loses the grade. The motion, stem intact, 2 fingers, twist and release, becomes automatic after a few days. After a season, it is almost unconscious. Experienced pickers know which variety they're working before they're told. The stem length, the skin tension, the way the fruit separates from the spur. The Rainier, pale yellow blushed pink, is delicate. It marks at almost anything. The Bing is firmer, darker, more forgiving. Each block has its own rhythm. Crew leaders, many of them multi-season veterans, walk the rows ahead of the pickers, reading the fruit. They call the harvest moment. Too early, the sugar isn't there. Too late, the skin is soft, the shelf life compromised. The call takes experience, it takes judgment, and it matters financially for the grower and the crew both. Pay is typically by the bin, 40-pound lugs stacked on wooden pallets in the row middles. A fast picker can fill 6, 8, 10 bins in a shift. New workers find the pace hard to hold. Veterans find their rhythm and don't break it. 5:30 a.m. Crew vans move through the orchard access roads, headlights cutting across the tree rows. The air is still cool. Picking in cool morning air is preferred. The fruit is firmer, holds better, bruises less. Once afternoon heat sets in, the cherry softens slightly, and the handling window tightens. 6:02 a.m. First bins placed in the rows. Ladders up. Work starts without ceremony. The canopy is heavy with fruit. A good year means every branch is loaded. A bad spring frost means gaps, whole spurs bare, production down by 30% before a single picker set foot in the orchard. This year, the spring was clean. No late frost. The fruit set is strong. The sugar readings are where they need to be. The packing house has already been on the phone with the export broker in Hong Kong. Containers are reserved. Flight scheduling on refrigerated cargo out of Seattle-Tacoma is confirmed for the second week of July. 9:15 a.m. The first pallet of bins is ready for field pickup. A forklift, driven by a crew member who has been doing this for 11 years, rolls through the row middle and lifts the pallet clean. The truck is already positioned at the orchard edge. Driver's been there since 7. Waiting, engine off, watching the sky. Because the sky is the only variable nobody controls. Cherry growers in Washington track National Weather Service, data the way pilots track turbulence reports. Hourly, multiple stations, elevation-specific forecasts. A rain event during harvest is not an inconvenience. It is a potential loss event. When water penetrates ripe cherry skin, osmotic pressure causes the flesh to expand faster than the skin can stretch. The fruit cracks. A hairline split becomes a full split within hours. Cracked cherries cannot be exported, cannot be sold fresh to most domestic markets. They go to processing, juice, dried fruit, at a fraction of the fresh price. In 2011, a rain event in late June wiped out an estimated $40 million in Washington cherry crop over 3 days. Growers who had been 10 days from a strong finish watched their season collapse in an afternoon. So every operational decision during harvest is weather-indexed. Rain in the forecast, speed up. Push the crew through the most vulnerable blocks first. Accept slightly earlier picks on the ripest fruit rather than leave it exposed. The orchard manager is on the phone with the packing house, adjusting volume estimates in real time. Clear forecast? Pace the crew, let the highest sugar fruit hang another day. The margin between a profitable season and a lost year can be measured in hours. Washington cherries picked for export, primarily to China, South Korea, and Southeast Asia, must meet Grade A standards that cover size, color, stem condition, and surface integrity. The export market is demanding, and it pays a premium, but premium comes with a condition: the cold chain cannot break. Cherries must reach the packing house and enter hydro-cooling. Water at 34 degrees circulated over the fruit, within 4 to 6 hours of picking. Delay that window, and the internal sugar continues to ferment, the skin softens, and shelf life on the other end of a 2-week sea container voyage is compromised. The logistics are precise. Pallet pickup times in the field are logged. Truck departure times are logged. Arrival at the packing house is logged. Time into the cooler is logged. Inside the packing house, the fruit moves on belts past optical sorters, cameras scanning for size, color uniformity, surface defects. Anything below grade diverts. Premium export fruit is boxed in branded cartons, weighed, labeled with orchard source and picking date, and palletized for a refrigerated container loading. The same cherry that was on a tree in Chelan County at 6 this morning will be in a 40-foot refrigerated container at the port of Seattle by tomorrow night. By the second week of July, the low-elevation blocks are mostly finished. The crews shift north, up the Methau Valley, into the Okanogan, higher orchards, cooler nights. Fruit that has been building sugar slowly all summer, waiting. The Skeena variety comes in late, dark, firm, sweet. It holds well on the tree and holds well in transit. Growers in the highlands have sold Skeena contracts months in advance. The pickers who are still here in mid-July are the veterans. The workers who followed the season from the California stone fruit harvest in May moved north to Washington cherries in late June and will eventually drift east toward the apple-thinning cruise in August. They carry the knowledge of a dozen harvests in their hands. A crew leader named Marco, on his 14th Washington season, stands at the row end and watches his crew move through the Skeena block. He doesn't count bins out loud. He doesn't need to. He knows the pace by the sound of the ladders, the rhythm of movement through the canopy. He knows if they're ahead or behind before he looks at a watch. That kind of knowledge doesn't come from a manual. By the last week of July, the Okanogan blocks are down. Final yield tallies for Washington State in a strong season, somewhere between 230 and 280 million pounds of sweet cherries. The majority exported, the remainder moving through domestic wholesale channels to grocery networks from Seattle to Miami. The packing houses go quiet. The refrigerated containers are already at sea. The orchard crews disperse, some east to Idaho, some back to California for the early apple runs, some home to Mexico until the spring. The trees stand empty in the August heat, bark dry, leaves beginning to harden toward fall dormancy. Next year's buds are already forming, invisible in the wood. The grower walks the rows, notes what to prune, what to replant, what blocks need replanting after 15 years of production. The harvest is logged, the contracts are settled, the export invoices are processed, and 3,000 miles away in a supermarket in Shanghai or Seoul or Singapore, a box of Washington State cherries sits under cold fluorescent light. Bing, grade A, stem intact. No one in that store knows the name of the orchard. They don't know the elevation. They don't know it rained on Tuesday, and the crew worked until 8:30 that night to finish the vulnerable block before the pressure front arrived. They know the cherry is sweet, that's enough. The field is quiet again, until next season. Under this video, there's a subscribe button. It's a small action, but it helps document the work that happens before the shelves are stocked. If you're drawn to the rhythm of the harvest, to the crews who move with the seasons, subscribing simply means you want to see how America feeds itself. And tell us, where are you watching from? Have you ever worked a harvest? Have you seen one? Share your experience below. That's how these stories travel.